3, 2, 1. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Beer Battered Sports Podcast, the podcast created by sports fans for sports fans, because we believe that we are the most qualified people to talk about our favorite teams. I'm your co-host, Isaac.
And I'm 40, live from the work truck today.
Oh, yeah. Quick apologies. There's a reason we're a little late for today's episode. There's construction going on in the apartment next door, and it keeps knocking my Wi-Fi off. So we're using a mobile hotspot for today. Hopefully it'll be okay. It's our old catchphrase. It's not an episode of Beer Battered Sports without technical difficulties, but so far everything seems to be going okay. With that being said, if this episode gets knocked off the air by any chance, that's why. You also may have noticed that it's just the two of us today. Kylie is not here today because her significant other, her squeeze, is graduating from college. Big shout out to Austin. Love that guy. Congratulations. Yep. Kylie is taking the day off to go celebrate with him, so it's just the two of us today, but we've got plenty of fun stuff to talk about. We're going to get into the hottest team in baseball right now, whose jersey I happen to be wearing, little pinstripes. We'll be talking about the NHL playoffs and, of course, the NBA playoffs. We have our first finals our first finals member who, oh yeah, we'll talk all about a certain team getting swept and the fact that the first team to clinch a spot in the finals is never been there before. And we'll also talk about this Miami-Boston series, which is looking really interesting. All that's coming up here on episode 69. Nice. If you look on the descriptions, actually, of the of each of the episode, because it's episode 69, I think I put nice for just the description of everyone, just because I'm a child and I wanted to. But
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into today's episode, and we'll start things off with a topic. Galvin, I know you don't want to talk about this. We'll talk about it quickly. But we got to talk about the Lakers getting swept, because that was probably the biggest sporting news that happened in the last week. The Lakers were swept out of the Western Conference Finals by the Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets, for the first time in franchise history, they've been around since the 70s. They've been a member of the NBA since the late 70s. They have finally made it to the NBA Finals. After years and years of them not making it, finally, the Denver Nuggets are here.
Yeah, first and foremost, shout out to the Denver Nuggets. They just wanted it more. They played a great series. All 4 games, they came out and executed. Offense was on the same page. And it wasn't just Jokic and Murray. It was their role players as well. You got a big game out of KCP in Game 2, I believe. Game 4, you got a big game out of Aaron Gordon where he had 20-plus points. So, the biggest key to it all was Jokic, of course. That guy, he's a unicorn. And after watching him with my own 2 eyes for 4 games straight, I don't know if Kylie has a point about that Embiid-Jokic debate there. I don't know if there is a debate. That guy is different. He's the most different thing I've seen since a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant. So, shout out to Jokic. Shout out to the Denver Nuggets. They played very hard, very well. They played a lot better as a team than the Lakers. The Lakers role players fell out all sorts. D'Angelo Russell didn't show up the whole entire series.
Nope.
You got some games where AD's showing up, but then he's not showing up. Like that Game 4, it was just atrocious. I think AD had 9 points going into the fourth quarter of that Game 4. He ended the game with maybe 15 or 16, but that was scored in the fourth quarter. Um, and then the biggest superstar in the whole series just isn't the same anymore, man. It hurts and it sucks to say that as one of the biggest LeBron fans. But witnessed a lot of great things with the guy, and we can clearly see he's not the same LeBron anymore. I will say he did have a great game 4. He came out in the first half firing on all cylinders, 31 points in the first half. He ended the game with 40 points, so, left it all out there on the court, but you can clearly see he's not the same LeBron as he was even 2 years ago. But
Yeah.
it's sad to see that the Lakers got swept. I thought we at least had one in us, but
I did too.
They played great. They just played great all around in every aspect.
It was honestly kind of heartbreaking because the way this Lakers team fought so much this year, they had fought through so much, and see the fall flat. It wasn't disappointing. I'll get into the real disappointment. This Denver Nuggets is they do have some guys that most of the team is guys that they brought up through through their own like system. Like you got guys like Jamal Murray and obviously Nikola Jokic, but you also have all these journeymen who have been bouncing around from team to team for a few years. KCP, Aaron Gordon, Reggie Jackson, Ish Smith, and then of course you got guys like, I don't know, DeAndre Jordan and Jeff Green who are going to the finals for the first time. DeAndre Jordan is finally going to the finals. Nearly a decade after we thought a Lob City was the greatest thing in basketball, DeAndre Jordan is finally going to go to a finals. This is a Nuggets team that really, they figured out the way to break the super team format. They don't need a ton of huge stars. All they need is like one or two core guys, and then the rest incredibly talented role players, and it works. They were the best team in the league this year. They're the best team in the West, and they just proved it with this incredible playoff run. And now they finally get to give their franchise. It's truly amazing that the Denver Nuggets have existed for so long, and this is the first time that they're actually making it into the finals. Because if you look at their history, like when they first joined the NBA after they had been in the ABA, they were pretty good right off the bat. They were pretty good. They made a couple of deep playoff runs, but they weren't, super special. Throughout the 80s, they were consistently one of the better teams in the West, but they just never really, they had a lot of missing pieces. They made a couple of deep runs. I think they once made it all the way to the conference finals, but then they ran into the Lakers, which a lot of teams do. They had a brief flash in the 90s, and then, from the 2000s, they were probably their best time, their best effort getting there. That time in the 2000s when they had George Karl coaching, they had Marcus Camby, Chauncey Billups, they had Allen Iverson for a little bit, Carmelo Anthony, but again they fell flat. And now finally we're seeing this Nuggets team, which popped up in the late 2010s with Nikola Jokic, finally starting to emerge as the team that we all thought they could be. And now they finally done it. They finally made it to the conference finals. So for the Denver Nuggets, congratulations. That is a legacy of failure finally swept under the rug for now, as long as you guys don't blow it. I will say this about the Lakers. I remember the first half of the season, I just was shitting on the Lakers the entire time. I don't know if I apologized for that, but I will apologize for that now. I'm sorry I doubted the Lakers. I don't know if they had a chance, and you're right. I thought they would take one away from the Nuggets. I thought for sure that they could take at least one from the Nuggets. But it just wasn't meant to be, Yeah. And I mean, as much as I feel bad for the Lakers, I mean, they do have a ring this decade, so it isn't the end of the world, And I wanted to shift the conversation here really quickly to the media's response, because even before Game 4, SportsCenter, Stephen A. Smith were already talking about how will this damage LeBron's legacy if he gets swept by the Nuggets? No, it won't. All right, well, did Michael Jordan getting swept out of the playoffs multiple times in his early years damage his legacy? Hell no. Does LeBron getting swept out when he's in the twilight of his career playing for a ragtag team that just barely scraped their way to the conference finals, does that damage his legacy? No, it doesn't. Honestly, I'm more surprised. I'm more surprised that the games were close, to be honest. But and then of course there's people. LeBron makes one comment about like oh this we're getting to the end of the road here, and everyone's like, oh my God, is he gonna retire? Is this it for LeBron? It's like, why are you acting so surprised? Probably. Dude's been in the league for 3 separate decades. Like, you expected to not retire soon?
Right, exactly. And I was saying that to somebody the other day. If it is the end of him, hell of a way to go out. 40 points. I mean, yeah, it's a loss and it hurts, but he doesn't have anything else to prove in his career. So it's like, I think he would do more damage to his legacy if he keeps trying to add on to shit and he's not doing it than if he just went and sat down right now. Like, all right, you know what? It's time to hang him up. I've done all I can do. I've done everything that needs to be done. Like, and you guys know that I feel as if he's the greatest of all time, or this, that, and the third. There's other people in the world that feel Jordan is the greatest of all time, and I give them their respect for that, and that's fine. But even to be in that conversation there, it doesn't matter if you look at him as the greatest of all time or the number 2 greatest of all time. There's been thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have played this game. To be in the conversation as the top 2, one of the top 2 greatest players of all time, what else do you have to prove to these
Exactly.
people?
Yeah, and I mean, the media is gonna media. They're always going to look for an opportunity to bitch and moan about something and find some way to complain or drop ratings. But the way I see it, if LeBron chooses to go out now, it probably would be best. Because again, like as you said, if he stays around and continues playing, it could that. If you want to talk about damaging legacy, how many athletes do we know who have continued playing well past their primes, well past the twilight of their careers, and now their legacies have been slightly tarnished a bit. Like
Right.
I know if Mike's watching, I know Mike is going to throw a fit with this. I hate to bring it back to this sport, but I always do it. So Richard Petty won 200 races in the top level of NASCAR. But for the final 10 years of his career, he was one of the worst drivers on the grid because he still stuck around. Well past his prime, he just kept racing. And as a result, it's debatable if he's the greatest of all time. Is he the greatest? I don't know. Those last 10 years, he was kind of shit. I'm probably getting crucified by anybody in the South who, if I ever say that down there, but I'm going to say it. I'm trying to think of anybody in the Peyton Manning. If Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl in his final season, if he had decided to stay with the Broncos afterwards instead of going out on top, remember he didn't have a good final season. He was honest. He was kind of dog water. The Broncos defense carried him. If he had stuck around for a few more seasons, then we could talk about a damaged legacy, because that probably would have damaged his legacy. People would have been like, oh yeah, he was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but man, those last few seasons, ugh. Instead, he went out after getting on top. I'm trying to think of other athletes who stuck around way longer, and I'm getting who's I don't know. Is Vince Carter? No, Vince Carter was always kind of. Help me out here, Calvin. We're trying to think of athletes who stayed in the sport well past their prime, and like damaged their legacy.
I don't know. I mean, it didn't really damage his legacy, but Jerry Rice definitely stayed in football way past his prime.
Yoni's got a good one. Carmelo Anthony, who we actually should talk about. He just announced his retirement this week.
Well, I honestly, I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I can't say that Carmelo stayed past his prime. I think Melo was blackballed. They changed how he played at the end of his career, and it wasn't the same Melo. They didn't let him be ISO ball Melo. They was stand in this corner and go shoot a 3. So I don't want to say Melo played way past his prime, because I don't think he got a chance to show what I don't think he got a chance to play Carmelo Anthony basketball in the last couple years of his career there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna miss Carmelo because he was a lot of fun to watch, but a lot of guys in the NBA say that Carmelo Anthony was the hardest guy to ever guard in the NBA.
Probably.
Yes, probably. I still remember I still remember him on the Knicks. I think is the team I remember him most for. I know he spent most of his career with the Nuggets, and kind of became a journeyman at the end there. But his time with the Knicks, just like I know Knicks fans have so many fond memories of him. I'm still trying to think of other athletes who like stayed well past their prime. The problem is a lot. I'm trying to think of like hockey, but the problem is a lot of great hockey stars, got picked up by top teams towards the end of their careers and went out winning championships. Like Ray Bork was in the league for like 20 years and won a championship in his final year.
Well, your boy stayed past his prime, and that's why he decided to retire this year. Tom Brady.
That is true. That's true. Yeah, Tom. Yeah. Honestly, yeah, Brady. That I don't know if that doesn't damage his legacy because Tom
Definitely
Brady,
doesn't
like,
damage his legacy,
yeah,
but he did stay past his prime.
he did. Like that last year was honestly painful. Like it was the only reason we made the playoffs was because our division was shit and the defense like was keeping us in it. Our offense was non-existent that season because Brady
Yeah.
was old. People figured it out.
I
Figured it
watched
out.
that guy put up 3 points against the Steelers, and I was like, yeah, this guy's done. There's no way.
Yeah,
He's
no.
finished.
Yeah, it's a shame too. If he had gone out after that second year with the Bucks, Yoni says Kobe was past his prime, but it didn't because and that's a fair point. Because and with all respect to Kobe, may he rest in peace. The last few years of Kobe Bryant's career, it was very clear, he had fallen off. And I say that with the utmost respect. But in his final game, dropping 60 points, that reminded us, hey, prime Kobe is still in there. So it wasn't like it never damaged his legacy, but people could still talk about like, yeah, those last few years with Kobe were, he was struggling those last few years, but he ended up going out on top in a way, Now this one I agree with. Big Ben. Ben Roethlisberger.
I can agree with that one.
Ben Roethlisberger was trash his final 5 seasons in the league. He was carried by having some of the best role players in the league, and as soon as they went, because everybody lost their minds on the damn Steelers, he was shit. The only reason those Steelers teams were making the playoffs was because Mike Tomlin somehow was able to get them to a winning record, and the AFC is not good. Like that, Big Ben fell off hard. And we'll look back on Big Ben and be like, oh yeah, in his prime he was great, but man, he was like just shit every other time. So I can agree with that one. Big Ben like really hurt his legacy staying those last few years.
Yes,
should have retired after 2018. Well, that let's quickly segue into the other NBA series going on. So last night, and I watched this game, the Celtics stole one from the Heat. The Heat were about to get a sweep, and the Celtics stole one. I mean, I don't know if no team has ever come back from a 4-0 deficit in NBA history. Hockey, they've done it a couple of times, including a few times in the finals, which makes no sense. This, of course, opens up a big question. Like, can Boston do it? Or are we just really wanting the series to be competitive and that's all?
If I honestly think if any team was going to do it, it would have been the Lakers. I think Boston may sneak out one more just because they're going back home. But I think the Heat wrap it up in Game 6. For sure. I don't see this thing going to 7. I don't. Eric Spoelstra is too good of a coach, and that team is too well disciplined for them to lose 4 straight games. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Eric Spoelstra. People don't realize just how good of a coach he is because last night TNT showed each of the 2 coaches, after a timeout. I think Boston was down big at this point. They came back. I'll give it to Boston. They played really tough last night. You could tell they were like, we're not getting eliminated. Yoni coming in clutch. Of the down 3-0 teams in the NBA history, they only even made it to Game 7 3 times. Yeah, the odds are stacked against Boston. But I'll say this. Eric Spoelstra, I think, and the Heat are going to pull this out because of one big thing. If you look at the way that the 2 coaches were working last night, because TNT would show you inside the huddle during the timeout, the Boston coach was trying to draw up plays and was like, come on, let's do this. Eric Spoelstra is just like, hey, remember what you guys are here for. And Eric Spoelstra is just like, look, here's the fundamentals that you guys need to get a little better at. Go do it. Eric Spoelstra is one of the coaches who's very hands-off. He's like, go do your thing. And that's, I think, the experience from coaching LeBron during the Big 3 era. He's got the experience of like, hey, you guys know what you're doing. I'll remind you to sharpen up your skills if you're getting bad in one category. But other than that, go do it.
Exactly.
And that's
guys,
what I think.
I'm muting myself for a second. I got to run inside to go get a tool from a customer's house I left. So I'm muting myself.
In that case, well, he is muting himself. Let me quickly What was I going to say? No, I don't want any awkward pauses here, silences. I wonder. No, we don't. Okay. I was wondering if we used to have a segment here where we would have a uh, kind of a please wait, please hold kind of thing we would put on occasionally. But we would only do that when we were segueing between segments. And we only did that for like 1 or 2 episodes. But anyway,
I'm sure the
so
customer would like to hear about sports. It's okay.
probably. But anyway, yeah, this Boston Miami series, I think Miami, I think, has probably got this. Spoelstra know what he's doing. Hemi Butler is, being him. And I will say there was one thing about the Heat I was going to mention. Oh, right, the injury. The Heat's bench player, whose name is escaping me, and give me 1 second so I can make sure I get this right. Caleb Martin. Thank you, Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin, twisted his ankle last night, and that could be an issue because he's been coming off the bench and playing really good for the Heat this series, really good throughout these playoffs. That's the only thing that could be a problem for the Heat. And I think that we could see Boston capitalize on that a bit. But I still think the Heat are going to win this. Like you said, Calvin, in 6, the Heat probably are going to get this done. But I would not be surprised if Boston is able to keep it close just because Caleb Martin may be a bit handicapped going forward. So that is definitely something to look forward to. Well, not look forward to, look at going ahead. So that pretty much wraps up the NBA. Quickly talk about the NHL. Hang on 1 second. Yeah, Yoni says Eric Spoelstra could make you or I a rotation playoff player. Basically, that's how good of a coach he is. Like, he's right up there with Pop as one of the best coaches we've seen over the last 20 years. Shout out Gabe Vincent. Yeah. Shout out Gabe Vincent coming off the bench and doing great last night. Let's quickly talk about the NHL because their playoffs have gotten weird. And I'll quickly start.
What are we talking about? Sorry.
I'm about to go to the NHL. I can't tell if someone's knocking on my door or if that's the workers over in the other apartment. I think it's the workers. So over in the NHL.
You guys don't really need me anyway.
Yeah. So, Calvin's finished up there. NHL. NHL is also in a similar situation to the NBA where both series could end in sweeps. Last night, the Golden Knights obliterated the Stars to take a 3-0 series lead. So Vegas is probably going to go their second finals if Dallas can't steal one tonight, or tomorrow night, excuse me. Tonight, we could see the conclusion of the Eastern Conference Finals, which currently the Florida Panthers are up 3-0 on the Carolina Hurricanes. This Panthers team could pull off, they pulled off a huge upset by taking down Boston. They beat the Hurricanes in the third longest game in NHL history, a game that went into, how many overtimes did it go into again? It went into 4 overtimes, so we could very well get Las Vegas versus Florida for the Stanley Cup Finals, which I don't know if the hockey purist in me is offended by that, but I don't know. I will be very interested to see how this ends up playing out. But right now, I kind of want Carolina to come back just because the Florida Panthers' eternal suffering has always been really funny to me. How this franchise has existed solely in its own little bubble of suffering. I mean, you look at all the things that they've done over the years. Of course, they made the deep playoff run. They got to the Stanley Cup back in 1996, and they lost. And ever since then, it's been nonstop suffering. They've had so many terrible coaches, so many terrible players. They've had great players slip from their grasp. I think the funniest thing about the Panthers probably is the fact that they play in where do they play it? They don't even play in Miami. And that's always surprised me. They don't play in Miami for some reason. I will say this, though. I do like the logo being from Florida. If you don't know the history of the Florida Panther is a subspecies of a mountain lion that is endemic to the Everglades in South Florida. Florida Panthers are one of the most endangered animals on the planet. There's only like 50 of them left in the wild, and there's extreme conservation efforts down there, which are kind of hampered by the fact that if you're down in a swamp and you just see a panther coming at you through the trees, you're going to freak out. which is one of the reasons why they're endangered. So many hunters back in the day were like, what the hell? There you are. Nice to see you, Kylie. Nice. Yeah. Once again, guys, if you're wondering why Kylie isn't with us today, her significant other, Austin, is graduating today. Again, shout out to Austin. But yeah, where were we talking? Right. The Florida Panthers. So part of me wants the eternal suffering of the Panthers to continue just because it's funny. But also, this playoffs has been an incredible story for them. We have seen this team basically come out of nowhere to take down arguably the best regular season team in NHL history, the Bruins, to take care of business against the Maple Leafs, and now have a chance to go to their second finals in franchise history if they could take care of the Hurricanes. And I haven't really talked about the Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights, they've never been bad. They are a great example of what the league wanted with these expansion teams joining. They wanted expansion teams to be competitive from the get-go because they were tired of expansion teams struggling for decades in some cases to even find relevancy. So for Vegas to be on the cusp of going to their second finals in their franchise's existence, that is really impressive. So I think Vegas will complete the sweep tomorrow night against the Stars. I think Dallas has just run out of juice. But I will say this. I think Carolina is going to take at least one game back from the Panthers. That's my prediction going forward for these game fours coming up. So what work you got going on there, Calvin?
Me, on the other hand, I can't really give you a prediction because I'm not a big hockey guy. But I'm going to go ahead and run with Florida Panthers just because of the history lesson Isaac just gave us there.
Well, their eternal suffering is really is funny, but also it's always nice to see a team break a legacy of failure. Like when the Capitals and the Blues won Stanley Cups in back-to-back years, that was really special because both those teams had struggled so much for so long. So it is cool to see a team finally find glory, kind of like what the Nuggets are doing right now. But at the same time, there's also a part of me that kind of looks at it and is like, I don't know, the status quo is. I kind of like the status quo here. It's more because these teams just kind of come out of nowhere, and do this. Like one of the things about sports that annoys me nowadays is that a lot of teams that find success and win championships kind of like they're one and dones. They pop up, they win, and they disappear. For much of the history of sports, teams have slowly built up to that point. There's a reason why dynasties are so prevalent across each decade is because teams are building up and sustaining that success. Nowadays, you see a team basically go all in one year and get it done. Sometimes they make a few playoff appearances, but most of the time they kind of just exist for one season and then they disappear. We saw that with the Rams in 2021. They popped up, they were good for 1 year, and then they vanished. Now they're terrible. I was going to go to MLB next, but I really want to quickly segue over to the NFL because this actually is for anybody who's watching who's from our state, Maryland. The Commanders expressed interest in possibly building a stadium in Moco, and Montgomery County Council basically said no. So probably not there.
I didn't even see that.
That flashed on my newsfeed this morning. There's a local thing for the Moco show that covers news in Montgomery County, Maryland. Briefly mentioned that the county executive Mark Ehrlich was like, yeah, we have no interest in having a stadium in Moco, which is true because where would you put it? Montgomery County is the most populous county in Maryland. There's not a lot of room for a stadium. I guess maybe in the north near Damascus, but even then that's mostly just farm country. Like you don't really want to do anything there. Didn't think, yeah, Moco, it doesn't have the space there. If it did have the space, it would have to be way north by near Frederick and Carroll County, where I live in right now, up in Carroll County. And I don't think you could do that because most of that's just farmland. The only major sporting venue that Moco seems to have, from my knowledge, is the Crop Dusters field for the minor league only Crop Dusters, and they just popped up. And that's not even really a field; that's just like a part of a sporting. Actually, that could kind of work. There is that, where this area I'm talking about, right, Cal? There is this area near the Only Boys and Girls Club. It's this big open area that they have all of these. They have all of these open fields for sporting events like soccer fields, baseball fields. There's a minor league baseball.
A lot of traffic.
It would, because there's not a lot of the infrastructure isn't there. There's a minor league baseball team that does play there that just popped up, the only crop dusters, but they're like a college spring league team. So I don't know. That is the only viable place I could see, but it would cause a lot of traffic because the only way to get there is to take like a county highway. So that's not going to work. But speaking of the Commanders, apparently there was a rumor going around that they tried to speak to Andrew Luck.
He shut that down.
Yeah.
Supposedly that was a lie.
Yeah, whoever spread that story, the Commanders shut that down. But
yes,
that would have been cool though. I mean, I don't know, Andrew Luck. I think we're done with Andrew Luck. I don't think we're going to be seeing any more of Andrew Luck.
Yeah,
he's done. But at the same time, one can always dream. So, anyway, let's move over to Major League Baseball, where I think we're going to spend the rest of the episode because there's been a lot going on. And I think we'll start with the hottest team in Major League Baseball, if I can just pull it up, who have won their last 5 games, are 8-2 in their last 10 games, and last night walked it off against the Baltimore Orioles. My New York Yankees turned it around. Hottest team in baseball right now.
Definitely turned it around, because I think the last episode I was on, I was saying that you guys do not look good right now.
Nope. April was not a good month for us, but at the start of May, we had to take on the Rays in back-to-back series, and we played on their level, played them tough, and now, now we're third in our division. We have a huge series against the Orioles, but we managed to steal 1 game. We can't surpass the Orioles by winning this series, but we can get close to them. The Orioles are 2 games ahead of us. So we definitely can get close to them with this series win. We're not catching Tampa just yet, but Tampa is only 3 games ahead of the Orioles. The Orioles have closed the gap to Tampa. The AL East is starting to get really close. The top 3 teams are all separated by just 5 games. Meanwhile, Boston and Toronto have both fallen off big time. They are sinking in a way. But yeah, the Yankees, I mean, we're getting players back from injury. They're doing good again. Aaron Judge is raking. Anthony Volpe is just the greatest thing I've ever seen. I am in love with Anthony Volpe. Anthony Volpe is incredible. And right now, we're seeing the Yankees play at their most dangerous. Like, they got all of their issues out in April. They're starting to fire on all cylinders. Right now, they are the team that I think is going to be – they're probably the most dangerous team to play right now in Major League Baseball. You should be very, very afraid of this team if you're going up against us right now, because they are playing extremely tough. I don't think anyone else has been hotter over the last 10 games.
Hold on. My Mets, we're back. 7-3 in the last 10 games.
6-4, but yeah.
Okay. We're playing a lot better than we were to start this season.
That is true. You guys are
still got a lot to work on. I'm not too fond of what Justin Verlander's bringing to us yet, because I don't think he has a W yet over there.
Yeah, he hasn't been as good as expected, I think. You guys
that might be another person right there that we can talk about is playing past their prime, because he's 39 years old now at this point.
Yeah, but Verlander has never really, fallen. Verlander is still just as dominating as he was when he started, so he hasn't really fallen off. But if he keeps going and he doesn't show and he starts to show signs of aggression, he just keeps playing, then I think we could talk about it. But that's true. The Mets, they are closing in. The Mets are now 4.5 games behind the Braves, who are having some troubles this month so far. They're 4-6 in their last 10. Mets are closing in. Marlins are keeping up close in the NL East too, but Philly and Washington, it's I'm kind of glad Kylie's not on this episode, because it would probably let me just tell you guys something. And she can't stop me because she's not on the episode. So I work with Kylie on Sundays, and the Phillies are usually playing. I respect the hell out of Phillies fans, because I've had to watch their games the last couple of Sundays, and I don't know how you can watch that. It is not because they're terrible, but because, they're playing down to their competition. Like, I'm watching them go up against teams that they should be smoking, and it is insanely close games, and Kylie being Kylie. Look, I love Kylie to death, but depending on how our teams play is how our mood is, and it is not pleasant when the Phillies are losing. And I get that. As a Yankees fan, I get that, because when the Yankees lose, I find myself getting in a bad mood. I find myself walking around the house going, man, see a random vase on the side and get that shit fuck out of the way. I get
I
it.
didn't even want to talk to people the other day when the Lakers got swept. Like,
I
I
know.
literally turned my phone on Do Not Disturb. I was so upset.
I know. Again, I get it if you get that attached to your team, but I can still make fun of it. So, I don't know. I give credit to Phillies fans. They're keeping the hope up. If you guys follow the Bell Smashers podcast here on Fired Up Sports, they are keeping the hope alive for the season. And again, we've seen a lot of teams turn it around after a terrible start, and we're starting to see that with some teams this year. We're also starting to see some teams come back to earth. I think one of the biggest disappointments over the last week, I think, has been the Pirates. Pittsburgh had that incredible start to the season, and now they are a game behind the Brewers for the lead in their division. Still close, though. But that's a little bit disappointing. Arizona has fallen behind the Dodgers in their division, which is also disappointing. It's great we have to deal with the Dodgers again. And Houston is starting to get good and starting to catch up to the Rangers. So it looks like the status quo is returning. I did want to talk about this, though, really quickly. The AL Central has some serious issues. This division is horrible. If you look at this division right now, the division leader are the Minnesota Twins, who are 25 and 24. They have lost their last 3 games and have gone 4-6 over their last 10 games. Its second place is the Detroit Tigers at 21 and 25, who have gone 4-6 over their last 10 and have lost and are coming off a loss. Then you have the Cleveland Guardians, who are 21 and 27, 4-6 in their last 10. Then you have the White Sox, who are 7-3 in their last 10, but are 20 and 30. And then you have the Kansas City Royals, who are 15 and 35. This division is horrible. All 5 teams in this division are on the cusp, are either below 500 or just barely above in the case of the Twins. And I don't think it's going to get better, because this is a division now where the Detroit Tigers have a legit chance to capitalize and win this division. Whoever gets the AL Central winner in the wild card game is basically being gifted a bye, because my God, it is truly terrible what we're seeing right now with the AL Central. All 5 of these teams are absolutely horrible. So there's actually, if you look at the AL standings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6.
That division kind of reminds me of the NFC South last year.
Yeah, there are 6 teams in the wild card race for the AL with better records than the Minnesota Twins, who are leading that division. 6. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Speaking of the wild card race, in the playoff race right now, the AL, Tampa Bay is leading the way as a top seed, with Texas second, and in Minnesota. And in the wild cards would be Baltimore, New York, and unfortunately the Astros. Which, man, I don't. Why? So, hey, the Angels are only 2 games out of a wild card spot. So they seem to have gotten it turned around. That's good for them. In the NL, the Dodgers, Braves, and Brewers have the top division spots, with the wild cards going to Arizona, Pittsburgh, and the Mets. But you guys are only half a game up on the Giants, so keep that alive.
That's okay. We just need one momentum swing. As soon as we get that momentum swing, we'll be fine.
And it's still a long season, too. Like, we're only...
a long season.
We're barely 2 months into the season. We're almost 2 months into the season. It could still change like a dime. Remember last year with the Phillies, they were dog water through the first half of the year. They turned it around and made an incredible run to the World Series. Anything can happen. Speaking of which, there's a bunch of games going on right now. The Rangers are up 3-2 on the Pirates. The D-backs are up 1-0 on the Phillies. The Giants and Twins are tied at 1. The White Sox are up 1-0 on the Guardians, and the Brewers are up 2-0 on the Astros. Fun. We play the Orioles tonight, and I'm a little concerned about that, again, because the Orioles, there's Baltimore fans are funny in that they tend to get extremely aggressive when their teams are doing good. Um, you can't heckle in Camden Yards like you used to. When I went there for the first game against the Yankees back in April, um, yeah, you can't heckle the Orioles anymore because their fans are not having it.
Yeah, we played the Cubs tonight. I'm a little worried as well. They have Marcus Stroman on the mound, which is one of our old pitchers, so I know how the guy is.
Yeah.
And he's liable to shut us out if he wants to.
Well, they also have got who is it? They actually have the stats here. How most of you guys have done against Marcus Stroman, and Pete Alonso is 500 all time against him. Everyone else kind of is either hasn't faced him or is kind of. Actually, most of you guys are pretty good against him, so you guys should be okay. It should be okay. Is it the Cubs who have that guy who's gone like 10 consecutive games with either a home run or a hit?
Yep, I think what's his name? Saya Suzuki or something like that.
No, it's not Suzuki. I saw this last night. It was. Let me find it. It was somebody. You know what? Twitter probably has it. Oh, here's some news from ESPN. The A's have reached a tentative agreement with Nevada State and local officials on a stadium funding plan for how much public assistance the state will contribute to a $1.5 billion ballpark in Las Vegas. Yeah. So the A's are on track to break the record for the worst team in the history of Major League Baseball. They are 10-40 right now. And have you seen some of the wild stories coming out of what's happening at their games?
I have not.
So Oakland Coliseum obviously is a huge arena, and it is abandoned because A's fans just will not show up for games because the team is terrible and they're aware that they're trying to move. And why would you support a team that's about to move? It's gotten so empty with so few people that there was an incident last week or a couple weeks ago where they caught a young couple doing the deed in the top level in a section that was completely empty. They had snuck up there and we're just in full view of everybody. We're just going at it's like that one time that couple got caught in the hotel rooms built into the Blue Jays stadium, but this time it was just out in the open. Which, by the way, first of all, two things. One, with a stadium that empty, you're still going to get caught because people are going to be scanning the top level and they will see you. Like, just so you know. And secondly, I swear to God, that better be. I'm not answering the door if that's somebody knocking. That's either someone knocking or construction. Where was I? Second of all, do they not know what happens in that stadium? Do they not know how gross Oakland Coliseum is? Like all the rats and possums and the nasty stuff that goes on in that stadium. I know they're trying to contribute to the nasty stuff, but that stadium is in rough shape. It is in rough shape. And you're going to tell me that you're willing to, like whip it out in a stadium that gross. I don't get it.
Some people just have no care in the world.
Well, at this point, I think it's probably for the best that they move to Las Vegas because at this point, Oakland Coliseum is an absolute dump. I haven't even mentioned the sewage issues. Let me find the guy who's been on that record recently. I know he's a Cub. Christopher Morrell. That's who it is. He has hit 5 consecutive home runs.
Wow.
5 consecutive games with a home run. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, he won't go with one today because now we jinxed him since we said the streak on the podcast.
That was the plan. That's the plan all along. Why is Aaron Boone trending? What did he do? Oh, because the we used all of our top pitchers yesterday against the Orioles, and now we're We're down to our oh boy, who's pitching tonight for us? It better not be who I think it is. Oh, it's Nestor. We're fine. Okay. Whew. I thought if it was Clark Schmidt, we're doomed. It's Nestor.
Yeah.
We're okay. We're good. We're good. Nestor will save us. Thank God. Okay.
I don't know. Nestor, it's been off to a little shaky start.
He hasn't been as dominant as he was last year, but he
Yeah.
hasn't needed to because Garrett Cole has been absolutely just annihilating everybody. Garrett Cole, I think, hasn't lost has an undefeated
Yeah, I
record
think
so far.
yeah, he's 6-0. I think both him and Shane McCallahan haven't lost a game yet.
That's ridiculous. I mean, clear favorite right now for the Cy Young Award. Truly, it's truly incredible, like what he's doing right now, and how it's really just energized the Yankees to the point that we're finally getting back on track. Because that first month of the season was really shaky. I remember
Yeah.
watching games just being like after we got demolished by Toronto, I thought, yeah, no, this is going to be a bad year for us. But we've gotten it together. We've gotten it together. I need to stop yawning on stream. Whew. We've gotten it together, and that's really all that matters. Well, that's probably going to wrap up today's episode, unless there's any other topics we missed you wanted to mention, Calvin. Because I don't think we had anything else.
Nope. I tell you what, I'm ready for the football season. I'm excited to see what's to come in the NFL this year. That's what I will say.
Yeah, I think I think notably as we're getting to that part where we're getting to the part of the sports year where NBA and NHL are wrapping up and MLB is getting into their summer stretch where they're just grinding. Conversation topics are kind of gonna we're losing opportunities for conversation. We need something crazy to happen. So
Yeah.
um
Once we get back into NFL, everyone who's watching here, I'll bring back Calvin's best bets.
Oh yeah.
Because we're gonna have a big year in the NFL this year.
And we will be bringing back our week by week predictions because those were a lot of fun last year to keep track of. Although sometimes, man, some of us got into some slumps last year that were just brutal. So
yeah.
Well, anyway, that'll do it for episode 69. Very nice of the Beer Better Sports podcast. Podcast is a proud affiliate of the Fired Up Sports Network. You can follow us on all of our social media at BB Sports_pod and check out our Twitter bio to get your hands on some of our merch. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching today's episode of Beer Batter Sports. Thank you for hanging with us despite some of the technical issues. As always, one of these days we're going to get an episode with no technical issues, and we're all going to freak out when it happens and not believe it's happening. So anyway, from my living room and from Calvin in a random bathroom, have a good one, guys.
Peace.